Europe plays at war without measuring the consequences. And while its leaders fuel the conflict and multiply military spending in Moscow, the warning is already on the table. If they keep provoking, they will receive a swift response. Thus, General Andrey Gurulev left no room for doubt, and his message thundered through European capitals. Now, the West is preparing for a clash it cannot win. With absolute dependence on Washington, and an army still lacking the necessary ideological preparation, Europe is heading toward a self-destructive crisis. But if they persist in this dangerous game, Russia will not wait until it is too late. Devastating. A Russian general issues a warning that shakes Europe. Andrey Gurulev, a veteran of the armed forces and a member of the State Duma, has sounded the alarm with a message that leaves no room for doubt. The West is walking on thin ice, and Moscow does not intend to stand idly by. Without mincing words, the general made it clear that the situation has reached a critical point. Addressing European leaders, he warned that if they continue on the same path, they could face consequences that no one in Brussels seems willing to assume. His words were not merely a comment, but a direct warning. If they don't calm down, we will go on the offensive. These statements, far from being mere bluster, reflect Russia's firm stance in response to increasing Western hostility. The message is clear. If Europe continues to fan the flames of conflict, Moscow will take drastic measures. In recent months, some believed that diplomacy still had a chance, that dialogue could halt the escalation. But the reality has been different. Instead of steps toward de-escalation, European governments have opted for a discourse of confrontation, bringing the horizon of a greater crisis ever closer. Tensions reached a new level following recent statements by German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, who, rather than de-escalating, suggested that a conflict with Russia is not only possible, but could break out before the end of the decade. What initially seemed like a hypothetical analysis took on a more alarming tone when French President Emmanuel Macron appealed to collective fear, urging his allies to strengthen their military apparatus against what he described as an imminent threat from the Kremlin. Macron's statements were not an isolated event. Shortly after, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen unveiled an ambitious plan to inject 800 billion euros into new armaments, a decision interpreted as a clear sign that Brussels is preparing for a large-scale confrontation. Gurulev, with experience both on the front lines and in politics, did not overlook this turn of events. In an intervention on the Solovyov Live program, he warned that underestimating Russia's capabilities would be a fatal mistake. According to him, Europe is playing with fire and may face a surprise from which it will not be able to recover. For now, European powers seem to maintain their distance from direct confrontation with Russia, but Gurulev warned that this stance could change abruptly. From his perspective, the current stability is only temporary, as political and social transformations within the continent could take an unexpected turn at any moment. According to the general, although the people in Europe are not ready for a conflict today, history shows that the will of citizens can be shaped at the convenience of their leaders. What now seems like a population reluctant to go to war could, over time, become a society fully indoctrinated to accept confrontation. And if that shift occurs, Gurulev warns that the change will not take decades, but only a few years. In 3 or 4 years, Europe could have developed a completely different mentality, in which military mobilization is no longer a taboo, but a necessity imposed by the governments in power. In his intervention, the general was blunt. Europe has already embarked on the path to a war scenario, but its first step will not be on the battlefield, but in the minds of its people. Gurulev explained how the strategy used in Ukraine consisted of shaping a new perception of Russia, instilling hostility through an official narrative that left little room for questioning. This process took more than 20 years and turned Ukraine into an unexpected military actor capable of challenging Moscow, with an intensity not seen since the tensest moments of the Cold War. If Europe truly seeks a clash with Russia, sending weapons will not be enough. It will require a complete ideological transformation of its society. The general also made it clear that the military operation in Ukraine is not a minor tactical issue nor a simple troop deployment. For Moscow, this campaign is key to its own security, a shield against the growing pressure from the West, which continues to increase its investment in offensive capabilities. Halting Russia's war machine does not just mean abandoning strategic positions. It would also allow European countries to accumulate even more resources, strengthening their armies to prepare for a long-term offensive. That possibility, according to Gurulev, is a risk that Russia cannot afford to take. Therefore, Moscow is not only facing an external enemy on the battlefield, but is also in a race against time. While Europe rearms and redesigns its strategy, Russia is striving to consolidate its future in a geopolitical chessboard where the balance of power is at stake. From Gurulev's perspective, Europe is living in a dangerous illusion of military strength. Although its technological arsenal is advanced and its defensive structure seems solid, the reality is different. Without absolute support from Washington, any attempt to go head-to-head with Russia would be a mistake that could prove costly. The degree of military subordination of the European Union and the United Kingdom to the United States is so profound that, in strategic terms, 60% of its war capability depends on what the White House decides. This makes any confrontation a major risk, as without unwavering commitment from Washington, the conflict could lead to the total collapse of the European bloc. For Gurulev, NATO's infrastructures on European territory are not just a strength, but also their Achilles heel. While they provide a tactical advantage, the fact that most are under U.S. control means that, in the event of an offensive, European countries would be practically handcuffed without the green light from their main ally. The increase in military support from Europe to Ukraine has reinforced the perception that the continent has already crossed a dangerous threshold. It is not just about sending weapons or financing the resistance, but about direct involvement, which, according to the general, brings the region closer to a point of no return, where the possibility of confrontation is no longer theoretical but imminent. The participation of countries like Finland, Sweden, and Denmark in Ukraine's military industry is an unequivocal sign that Europe is laying the groundwork for something bigger. Through contracts with Kiev's war apparatus, these nations are securing their own offensive capability in what appears to be a meticulous preparation for a war scenario. While the official discourse speaks of humanitarian aid and defense, in reality, Europe is stockpiling weapons at a rate that suggests a much more aggressive strategy. This massive rearmament, far from being a mere precautionary measure, resembles the maneuvers preceding a large-scale conflict, something that has not gone unnoticed in Moscow. Far from showing alarm, Gurulev analyzes the situation pragmatically. Russia, according to his vision, does not seek an escalation without reason, but neither will it allow Europe to dictate the rules of the game. If provocations continue, the response will be immediate and uncompromising. If they don't calm down, we will go on the offensive, he warned. A phrase that not only defines the present, but could mark the beginning of a new era in global politics. Europe stands at a crossroads, and if it does not reconsider its stance, it may face a reality that would forever change the global balance of power.